please give a round of applause to Olivia Brownlee, our friend who's been... That last song is one that Olivia wrote especially for the Land Conservancy, and it can be found in our most recent newsletter, which I hope that most of you have received. If you haven't, I know that we have extra copies out front. We're going to go ahead and get the program started, and rest assured there will be time at the end to mingle and continue the excellent conversations that I see and hear taking place all around. First off, we have some people that I think are still looking for a spot to sit. So if you have an empty seat at your table, I see we've got them spread throughout. So I know that you'll welcome newcomers to your table. Thanks so much. Welcome, friends, to Common Ground 2022. I'm Dave Schaub. I'm delighted to serve as the Executive Director of the Inland Northwest Land Conservancy. We are so pleased to be gathering here in person, and our dedicated staff is working hard to get our streaming event up to speed, so hopefully we'll be able to say hello to our friends joining virtually at some point. But thanks so much for joining us tonight, for braving the roads, for bringing your friends and bringing good cheer. Yeah, that's right! Before we get started with the program, I'm going to say some very important thanks to a number of folks. I'd like to start off by thanking again Olivia Brownlee for your beautiful music. I also want to recognize Jerry Dicker and the Ruby River Hotel, along with 3 generous donors who've underwritten the costs of tonight's program. So thank you to them for their generosity. Your tables are decorated with some lovely greens gathered from conservation properties owned by Kirk and Madeline David, who are here with us tonight, along with Wes Hansen and Teresa Schaffer, and they were artfully arranged by some highly sought-after florists, Amy Walker and Nancy Schaub, who is also known as my mom. Our media sponsors tonight are Rogue Heart Media and Washington Trust Bank. Now, we don't do this work in isolation, as you know. We do this as part of a conservation community, and we have members from some of our longtime conservation partner organizations here in the room. We've got friends from the Dishman Hills Conservancy, the Lands Council, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and Washington State Parks here tonight. So thank you to all of you for being here. I also want to acknowledge the Spokane Tribe of Indians, on whose ancestral lands we are gathered tonight, and with whom we are really honored to be partnering to advance some really incredible conservation work throughout the region. In addition, the Coeur d'Alene Tribe and the Kalispel Tribe are conservation partners of ours. Yeah. And of course, I want to thank you all, our conservation community, our partners, volunteers, current and past board members, conservation landowners, and supporters, all of us working to amplify and accelerate our conservation success in the region, because we love and are connected to these lands and waters that sustain us all. So give it up for yourselves. So thanks to your ongoing generosity, you are helping us rise to meet the challenges that we face, which are many. And with your support, we've added 2 new positions to our team. I want to welcome Stephen Eddington and Jillian Rowe to the Conservancy team. They, along with the rest of us, Carol, Rose, Todd, Mike, Chris, Vicki, and myself, are really honored to serve in this capacity as your Conservancy staff. Before we hear from our program staff, I'm going to take a little risk here and push you slightly into or out of your comfort zone, depending on your nature. So I'll thank you in advance for playing along with me. So, if you're comfortable, close your eyes. Imagine a natural place here in our region that you love. It may be close to home or a destination you drive to. Maybe it's your garden, your backyard. Perhaps it's a hilltop vista, a river, lake, or wetland you've explored. Maybe it's a trail you've walked down many times, or a particularly peaceful log you sit on in your favorite woods. Think about a specific time there. Remember a smell or a sound from that visit. Think about how your body felt in that place. How the place shaped your mood and your mind. What stays with you when you leave that space and return home? Okay, you can now reopen your eyes. Now, imagine knowing that special places like these that you love, places that fill you, restore you, firmly ground you in this beautiful region of ours, that through your engagement with the Inland Northwest Land Conservancy, we are permanently protecting places like these all across our region to bring peace for future generations. So I know of no one else in our area who has participated in more of this kind of work than our very own Chris DeForest. And I'm very pleased to introduce our senior conservationist to tell you about the work that your conservancy has accomplished this past year.
Well, thank you, Dave, and it's such a pleasure to see so many of you back here from last year. How many of you support Inland Northwest Land Conservancy? Show of hands. All right. How many of you supported Inland Northwest Land Conservancy in 1991 when it started? Show of hands. All right. All right. Thank you. Let's have applause. All right. So.
Sorry, Chris, I forgot to advance through my slides.
All right, drum roll, please. Since 1991, your conservancy has protected over 23,000 acres. That includes 120 special places in North Idaho and eastern Washington. It includes 125 miles of rivers and lake shores in our region. It includes lands that provide 45 million gallons of fresh water a day to our precious aquifer. Most of them are private lands that are protected for habitat, clean water, working farms and forests. The rest of the lands are lands secured for everyone to enjoy the great outdoors in our inland Northwest. So that's our track record since many of you saw the future and invested in it. Now that's since 1991, and since we last gathered over mac and cheese and since we were last here, we're going to look at just what happened in the last year, what Team INLC has accomplished with your support. So raise your hands if you were here last year at this event. Oh, good. So good food, good news, you came back. Well, we delivered on our land promises. So just in the last year, we've completed 11 conservation deals. We've protected another 1,400 acres of lands, and we've protected almost 30,000 more feet of rivers, lakes, and shorelines in our region. So how about some applause for your conservancy? So a little bit more about those 11 deals. 9 were with private landowners. 6 of those have working forests with forest management plans. 4 in Idaho, 2 in Washington, land near Rathdrum Mountain, near Coeur d'Alene, Fernan Lake, around Lake Pend Oreille, near Valley Ford in the Hangman Creek watersheds, and along 5 miles of Long Lake, or Lake Spokane, below 9 Mile Falls. 2 of the properties are dedicated to wildlife habitat restoration. How many of you have been to the Saltese Flats area? Raise your hands. Yeah. And how many of you have biked along the Coeur d'Alene River, maybe near 4th of July Creek? All right, all right. Well, then you've seen some of our recent deals with willing private landowners to protect and restore vital wetland habitat. And another of the 11 deals helps keep the Beacon Hill area open for mountain bikers and hikers for outdoor enjoyment. So 5 of the 11 deals that we completed just in the last 12 months will ensure public access to the great outdoors in our inland Northwest. So now, I'd like you to come with me for a short trip to Coeur d'Alene. Well, just virtually. So once upon a time, Frank and Gloria Andrews and their little girl Kathy packed their bags, got in a pickup truck, and moved from North Dakota out west. The year was 1948. And like some of you, they stopped in Coeur d'Alene and said, no further. They decided to make it their forever home and to homestead on nearby Fernan Lake, just over the hill from downtown Coeur d'Alene. So Frank and Gloria raised 5 kids and countless animals on a 100-acre Andrews farm while Frank worked at the sawmill in town. We're going to fast forward to the 1990s. Houses are starting to crowd the hills. House lights are lighting the night skies. The Andrews went looking for ways to protect their family land, their forever farm. Thanks to Wes Hansen, who many of you know, they found Inland Northwest Land Conservancy and started working out permanent protection for their lands. We're going to fast forward to 2021. Gloria, who I met with a number of times, who taught me a lot about hummingbirds and things that she had seen for decades at her feeders, passed away at the age of 92. And her kids wanted to honor her and Frank's wishes to see the family farm preserved before it was sold to a new family. Your conservancy swung into action and worked out a conservation easement with the Andrews kids with the help of their forester, Steve Bladel. With the legal agreement in place, the Andrews family sold their land to a new family. The new owners are eager to learn about the land's history and how they can care for it as lovingly as the Andrews did. That little girl, Kathy, spoke of the grief of letting go, tempered with the comfort that the forests, meadows, and streams will be protected by the Conservancy forever. Kathy said, I hope the new owners will be blessed by being here as much as we have. So, all right, for my last exercise, this is your last raise your hands. That's north, that's south. Hamilton, help me here. Raise your hand if you can picture the Moran Prairie and the Glenrose Prairie up where Spokane's South Hill bumps up against the Dishman Hills. Can you picture that? All right. I want you to travel back with me one more time. Go back to the 1990s. Back then, the Bauer family and the Glenrose Neighborhood Association approached your conservancy to help protect the Drews farm and provide for some scenic open space. So fast forward to today. Well, the Drews sisters have passed on and the property will be seeing some changes. But tonight, John Bauer, the 3rd generation of the Drews family ownership, is here to share some good news about these changes. Please welcome John Bauer.
Thanks, Chris, for that introduction. I'm not as comfortable up here as Dave and Chris, but Dave twisted my arm a little bit and got me to put this talk together. The family is in the process of yeah, okay. Our family is currently in the process of completing the conservation easement with the Land Conservancy for 25% of our farm property. And for those of you that aren't residents of Moran Prairie or the Glenrose area, let's see if I can. laser pointer turned on. There we go. Okay, so the 60-acre farm property is right here, Ferris High School. Okay. Ferris High School is over here. This is Regal Street, Blues Highway, 57, Glenrose Road. This is the Glenrose Prairie area over here. This is an enlarged view of the farm. This was actually taken in June this year, showing the hay crop being harvested. Our grandparents purchased the farm in 1935. Prior to the purchase, there was already a lot of history associated with the property. The Mullen Military Road that was constructed in 1859 ran through the property. In the late 1800s, J.J. Brown, who was one of the Spokane pioneers involved in numerous businesses, owned the newspaper for a while, he bought the property. He built a 15-room house on the property, the current barn that's there, and a brick pump house. The property also had the Inland Spokane Railway running along its west boundary right here. That rail line was abandoned in 1950, and it's been turned into the Mullen, or the Benberg Trail. My grandparents and Herman and Rosie Drews, they moved into the house that Brown had built on the property. And this was a picture of the house that was in the newspaper at the time that my grandparents purchased the property. And it was there not because they purchased it, but because it was Brown's house. And the house was one of the first places on the prairie to have electricity. The Brown brought the electricity across the field from the electric railroad. And so my grandparents and my mom and my sister, they certainly didn't need a 15-room house, but that's what came with the property. They basically moved into the lower level. The upper levels were kind of used for storage. Houses were hard to heat. Unfortunately, the convenience of having the electricity to the house caused a major family event. 1 year after they purchased the property, my grandfather was out October 6th, 1936. He was out in the field harvesting the last of the tomato crop. He noticed smoke coming from the upper level of the house, and so there was no adequate water supply. There was no rural fire department. A neighboring farm family came and helped. They moved almost all of their belongings out of the lower level. A photographer from the newspaper got on the electric train, came up to Moran Prairie, took these photos while the house was burning. So the left picture is the height of the fire. The right photo, upper photo, is after the fire had died down, and then the lower picture, those are my grandparents taken the afternoon of the fire. So with winter coming, no house, roads, sports fields, and manicured lawns. The transition on the property will be from a dryland farm operation to back to a native prairie vegetation. The YMCA, of course, has been instrumental in helping with this plan. They have agreed to provide for a low-profile building that blends with the surrounding neighborhood. Unfortunately, the historic red barn that's right here just doesn't work with their layout, but they have agreed to salvage the timbers from the barn and use it to build a community gazebo. Also, the YMCA is going to provide an exhibit in their building to preserve some of the history of Marion Prairie and the farm property. I guess lastly, and probably most important to this, is the fact that we've been able to work with the Land Conservancy to secure this easement to protect this 14 acres and to provide an open space oasis in the middle of an urban environment. I forgot to click on the last slide. This is the little pump house that my grandparents lived in. This is the barn. The area to the left here is the conservation easement area.
Thank you so much, John. Hi, everyone. I'm Lena Bernstein. I'm the Vice President of the Board of the Inland Northwest Land Conservancy. And I'm just kind of touched by that story. And it certainly illustrates why I'm on the board, so that we can, whether it's 14 acres in the middle of suburban I shouldn't use the word sprawl, but development, or private land easements in North Idaho, or land around Lake Coeur d'Alene. We're working with all of you so that we preserve the places that make this our home that we all love, and that is so special to all of us. And part of the community that we form together is the board of directors, and I have the honor of letting you all know that thanks to your votes as members, we have re-elected 3 of our board members. Each of them will be serving a second 3-year term, and I want to tell you just a little bit about these 3 extraordinary women. I'm very proud to serve on the board with them. They are Lindsay Schudas, Julie Johnson, and Vange Ocasio-Hockheimer. So, Lindsay, who's sitting back there, chairs our Land Protection Committee, which is really the heart of our work. And also in her day job, she's the program leader for the riparian program at the Spokane Conservation District. Lindsay's a wife, she's a mom, she's a sticker entrepreneur, and she is one badass mountaineer. And Lindsay is particularly proud of the work that you've all helped us do to add 55 acres to the Saltese Uplands Conservation Area. Vange Ocasio-Hockheimer, Dr. Hockheimer, chairs our Advocacy Committee, and she also serves on our Internal Affairs Committee, and in her spare time, she's an economics professor at Whitworth University. She also serves on the Washington Community Economic Revitalization Board, and she's treasurer of the board of the Spokane Symphony. And I guess Manny just does all the work at home because I don't know how she raises her two wonderful boys. But Vanj is particularly proud of the work that we do with local tribes, such as our multi-stakeholder program at Waikiki Springs, the nature preserve that all of you helped us to create. And Vanj encourages all of us to understand the economic benefits of land conservation. Julie, who couldn't be here this evening, is just completing chairing our External Affairs Committee. Julie's been preserving natural lands since she was in high school, and she is very passionate about connecting with the faith community, around the faith community's connection to conservation. She's a fantastic ambassador in North Idaho, where she lives, and I'm sorry she's not here because she also plays a really key role in planning many of our events, including this evening. So in absentia, we thank you, Julie. I really look forward to your continued partnership. We're really lucky to have their deep commitment and expertise on the board. The other honor that's been bestowed on me is to say a few words about two extraordinary men who are completing their terms on our board. Jake Williamson has served as our treasurer since 2015, and he helped us safeguard your donations and make sound financial decisions as we've grown and expanded our programs. Jake is a great champion of our work with public lands, and he's particularly proud of our Rimrock to Riverside project. Jake, you've been an engaged and inquisitive colleague on the board. I was just sitting next to you telling you I can't really imagine serving without you. You'll be missed, but we know that you'll stay close by. So thank you, Jake. Lastly, I want to say a few words about Tom Bradley, who is ending his term on the board and his 2 years of service as our president. So Tom joined us in 2016, and he brought with him incredible conservation and leadership experience honed through a career as a superintendent with the National Park Service. And he is a key member of our Land Protection Committee, which he chaired before becoming president. Thomas really made a lasting impact on our work. 5 years ago, he came back from a land trust conference that he attended, good board member, right? He had an idea. He introduced Dave and Chris to the Defense Department's REPI program, which helps protect habitat around military installations. Tom connected us to colleagues who knew about the program, had experience with the program. He went to Farragut with Dave and Chris to sell our conservancy as a conservation partner for the Navy on Lake Pend Oreille. Fast forward to today, 5 years later, and on Friday, Tom signed deals to protect land around Lake Pend Oreille that covers almost 200 acres and is worth millions of dollars. Very good idea, Tom, and we hope you'll continue to offer them to us. Tom, you've led the board with a steady hand and a healthy aversion to bureaucracy. And we're just really happy that you're going to continue to work with us as a member of the Land Protection Committee. I have to say that for me, it has really personally been quite a learning experience to serve beside Tom on the board, and you've set a really great example. So please join me in thanking Tom and Jake. Please stand for their incredible service on our board.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Todd Dunfield. I'm the Community Conservation Program Manager. Welcome. And normally I find myself up here at this podium at this point in the evening talking about community conservation and often the trail development. How are things going with the trails out of Waikiki? Well, Good news, they're done. So today we get to talk about something new. So we're going to be talking about our youth education and outreach programs that are part of our Connect portion of our mission. So a lot of my job when I'm not doing trail work is working with local youth and getting them outdoors. And specifically, we have such a beautiful location at Waikiki Springs that we've been able to double down, to really use that location as a place for field trips. And ever since we acquired the property in 2022, we've partnered with local schools like St. George's and the Meade School District high schools. But an opportunity came along and we've started taking kids out for a different reason. This picture on the slideshow you see is of a bunch of sixth graders from a local school. And if you look very closely in the photo, the children who have their knee on the ground in the front of the photo, they're holding one of the mascots of these field trips, and that's Sammy the Salmon. Hopefully you can see that from your seats. You too can order one of these off of Amazon. It's a stuffed dog toy, I believe, for about $15. But it makes a great visual when you're out on the land with youth from kindergarten to, well, seniors in high school. They all seem to love it. And so when we're out at Waikiki, we cover some really cool topics, and they're often tied to climate change. And they're, the fact that salmon are a keystone species that have been missing from that ecosystem for quite some time, and what it would mean to the ecosystem and to the tribe and to all of us if salmon were to return, and what we would need to do to keep them in the rivers, in the streams, when they do return. We also talk about thermal pollution, about our rivers potentially getting warmer with climate change and how to fight that, and then natural climate change solutions on the land. So Sammy the Salmon is going to show up in a lot of these pictures, I'm just going to warn you. This is a photo from a group of Girl Scouts who stopped by a booth at the farmer's market up there that we often will have a booth at in Fairwood, the Fairwood Farmer's Market. And an opportunity came along the end of last year with Gonzaga University, where they invited us to apply to be a sub-grantee on an EPA grant, so a national EPA grant that is given to the Climate Center at Gonzaga. And along with other nonprofits like the Lands Council, the Riverkeeper, and INLC, we all became sub-grantee awardees, and we have started to take children out with these grant funds and with this purpose. And we received $5,000 from the grant, but our contribution is 10 intentional field trips all about climate change with youth. And we've done 2 so far, but if there are 28 children per classroom usually, there should be an impact of about 250 to 300 youth getting out on the land at Waikiki Springs, specifically learning about climate change. So I'm really looking forward to doing that now and into the future over the next year. I have one specific student story to share with you, and that's Lauren. So I've taken the St. George's School out as one of our field trips, and I've taken On Track Academy out. Chris, you're so good at having people raise hands. Who's ever heard of the On Track Academy? All right, that's great. So it's an alternative path towards graduation credit retrieval program sponsored by Spokane Public Schools, and it's behind where Shaw Middle School is up in Hilliard. It's a beautiful new building, beautiful program, and I just happen to be friends with a few of the teachers there. And I reached out to them and said, "Would you like to come on a field trip about climate change?" And they said, "You sure betcha we would." But they said, "There's a hook. You've got to come to our class a few days early and talk to the students. You got to sell the students on this." I'm like, "I can do that. So I went on Thursday and spoke to the students, and then 31 of them climbed on a school bus and came out the following day. And we went and we toured for 3 hours. And it was a lot of walking for some of these students. But the one that really stands out to me is Lauren. And after I got back later that night, and I was reflecting on how these kids were so lovable, but sometimes so challenging to work with out on the land, the teacher that I'm friends with texted me these 2 photos. And I've changed the student's name, but I have used the photos with permission from the teacher. That the student was motivated. There was no assignment to get back to the class and to do artwork. She was so motivated as an artist that she took her experience at Waikiki and she just sat down and she drew up these 2 pictures, quickly. I mean, I got these pictures before the end of the school day, and I just thought, here's a great story of a student who engaged in the land. It was touched. It spoke to her. It spoke to her artist, parts of her brain, but maybe it spoke to the science parts of her brain. She connected. We talked about salmon and all these other topics while we were out there. So I was really touched to have that sent to me after that event out on the land. Lastly, I want to talk a little bit about the future out of Waikiki. There are still 8 field trips to go, if those of you who are good at math like me, 2 down, 8 left. And the next one will be with the Meade Outdoor School, which is an impressive school right next door to Waikiki. And it's works with homeschoolers in the Meade School District, and they literally meet outside year-round. These kids are bundled up with hand warmers and scarves and mittens, and it's inspiring. But their 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are going to be coming on a field trip sometime in January, February. We haven't locked down the date exactly. So I'm really excited to get them out as the next group. And then you're probably all wondering there's been a little construction project happening at Waikiki. I have an update for you on that. And then I'm going to turn it over to Rose to talk to you about stewardship. The bridge should be completed. The construction, the redecking of the bridge should be completed by this Friday, with a building inspection happening Friday morning. So Saturday morning, if you're looking for something to do in the snow, hopefully it's beautiful weather, you should be able, knock on wood, to return to Waikiki Springs and go out and take a hike there. So, thank you for your patience, all of you. I really appreciate it. So, Rose, would you please come to the podium and tell us some of the really exciting things that are happening in the stew crew, the stewardship part of our organization.
Lower the mic. Thank you, Todd. And wow, it's good to see you guys. Just wanted to. Okay. Anyway, great. Well, I will talk a little bit about stewardship and the care for department of our organization. But first, you're probably a little bit curious about these little tins on your tables. So I'll give a little introduction as to what those are, along with these little teeny envelopes. We were kind of thinking about, as a staff, what would be a cool way to bring the land here. Obviously, we have this beautiful greenery, but how can we really bring the land here for us to experience together? And we decided we would make you all an herbal medicinal salve, which we made from plants gathered from Rimrock to Riverside. So in these salves are arrowleaf balsam roots, common yarrow, St. John's wort, which we harvested and then pulled, because it's noxious. And then, let's see, what else? Woods rose, aspen, all really good stuff. And it's good for cuts, bruises, sore muscles. It's kind of an all-purpose salve to just kind of keep in your pocket while you're walking outside. And I think if you unscrew it and give it a little sniff, if you've ever been to Rimrock to Riverside, you'll kind of smell the land. I don't know about you guys, but when I get to a property and I open my car door, I just know where I am because of the way that it smells. And so I hope that that's something that y'all get from this salve. And we made them all together, so we all got really messy last week. In these little packets are wildflower seeds. Many of the species in here are species that we use to make the salve. So, while it's still a little bit snowy outside and we don't have a ton of wind, I highly recommend taking these seeds out to your favorite place and just kind of spreading them. A lot of them take a good amount of time to establish, so you probably won't see a lot of growth this spring, but over the next several years, you'll see a little wildflower patch grow. Thank you all for spreading seeds. That kind of long game is the stewardship way, right? We're playing the long game. So, speaking of stewardship, our goals really haven't changed very much from last year. If you saw our program last year, really our goals are to care for the land, to empower and engage our community in that process, and also to constantly grow in our capacity, in our knowledge, in our resources, so that when we arrive to a place, we arrive with the ability to really care for it to the best of our ability. So, with that said, we have some successes in 2022. The first one, can I get another round of applause for Stephen Ellington? We're growing. Can you see I have better posture already? He's lightening my load a lot. He's great. If you come out to volunteer with us on the land, he'll be handling a lot of our on-the-ground field projects. And so if you come out to volunteer with us, you'll likely be working an awful lot with Stephen. He's fabulous. If you have questions about weeds, ask him. And also, can I get a hand? I don't see him. There he is, Todd. A round of applause for the trails at Waikiki Springs. I get to present on it because it's a stewardship thing technically, but Todd really tackled it with his army of volunteers. That was a huge undertaking that, you know, people can see beautiful things and experience this beautiful place, and also that wildlife and the habitat are protected. And then also, I, like Todd, am not very good at math. We almost tripled our student engagement in 2022. Last year we had less than 50. This year we had over 120 students come and join us at Lake and other places to get their hands dirty, understand what good stewardship looks like, pull weeds, you know, do forest health thinning work, plant trees, get really involved in it. So, and that's really what our work is all about. We want to perpetuate that stewardship ethic. So, and that's a lot thanks to all of you for getting your young people involved. So, thank you, thank you. Let's see. So, a couple of stats here. We all have little bubbles to share. Mine are 453 volunteers engaged. A lot of you are volunteers. I'm going to have a raise your hand moment. Raise your hand if you volunteered with us this year. Yeah, very nice. Thank you, everybody that came out to volunteer. Almost 1,800 hours of volunteer time was invested into our lands just in 2022. That's enormous. That's huge. That's huge. So, and that's thanks to all of your hard work, your love of our lands. We also removed all kinds of garbage. We planted tons of trees. We did a lot of forest health thinning. Most of it focused at Waikiki Springs, but a lot in other places too, county parks and remarked Riverside, and so all over the place. And speaking of volunteer events, if you haven't come out to join us at a volunteer project yet, you have lots of opportunities to do so in 2023. This is a short list of the things that we had planned for 2023. So yeah, we have land steward trainings, we have habitat enhancement projects, citizen science, and that's just to name a few of the things that we have going on. So lots to look forward to in 2023 to introduce the great stuff that we have conservation-wise, more conservation projects coming up in 2023. I'll pass the mic to Mike Crabtree.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Rose. Again, I'm Mike Crabtree. I'm the Land Protection Specialist with INLC. And I just want to start today by thanking you guys for being here while we celebrate the work of your Land Conservancy and protecting the very best lands of the Inland Northwest. You know, we really appreciate and thank you for your support. We really, really depend on you. You know, we depend on you for your generosity, and so thank you for that. But we also really depend on you for your enthusiasm for this place in the world. You know, I really think that is our common ground here today, is that we all really love this place. We consider it home, and we want to see the best for it. So we are all just really excited because we've all come here today and to really celebrate the work of the Conservancy. You know, if you guys remember, if you guys were here last year, you remember that we did a little activity with this map here. We put this map up and we had sticky notes on all the in front of you, and everybody got to pick up their sticky note, and we asked that if you could write on your sticky note a place that you connect to nature, a place that you really love, that you love, and it connects to nature. And everybody got to do it, and it was really a fun activity. Everybody put their sticker on the place on this map, and we were left with this really great product. I don't know if everyone can see it in the back, but I encourage you to look at it later. But what I really love about this map is it shows your enthusiasm for this place in the world. And I just think it's beautiful because there's just overlapping stickers of everybody's place, and Lindsay's sticker was just as important as Tom's sticker, and Tom's sticker just as important as Sandy's sticker, and it just really points out that we all it just really points out that that this spot in the world is really great for us. My work here at the Conservancy, I've been working to take a data-driven approach to project selection. And so what I've been doing is I go through and I find data sets that help us evaluate properties. And we look at properties for if they have great wildlife habitat, or water resources that are really important, or if the land is going to be resilient to changing climate. And also if the property is important to our tribal neighbors. And so when I do the evaluation of these places and I look at some of these places that are on this map here, it's not surprising to find out that the characteristics that we are looking for in properties, these places on the map share those characteristics. So the places that we're looking for that have wildlife habitat and water resources and they sequester a ton of carbon, those are these places. And I think that is why those characteristics are important, because they make us love those places. They draw us into those places. And so that's why I think that this map is so interesting, because it's the art that proves the science. I'm forgetting to advance my slide, so I want to just I think that is so important, because we're finding that the science is pointing us in the right direction because it's proven by this map. So I only have about 4 minutes, and I don't want Carol to wrestle the mic out of my hands here. So I just want to close by saying that this Land Conservancy, your Land Conservancy, is poised to make some big impacts on our region. We aim to do larger, more meaningful projects, and we really feel like we are at a point in history where time is truly of the essence. We want to do as much as we can to protect the very best of this land with the time that we have. Our project pipeline is full of amazing projects that we are so excited to celebrate with you in the coming years. In the next 12 months, we have over 13 projects and totaling over 8,700 acres. And that's not even to mention 2 really important partner projects that we have. This says 1, but we can't even keep it accurate because this work is moving so fast. But these projects are in both Idaho and Washington. They're located on the foothills of Mount Spokane and around Micah Peak. They're in the channeled scablands, and they're along the rivers, lakes, and streams of the Inland Northwest. So I just want to say that your support and your generosity and also your enthusiasm is what drives successful conservation projects in our region. Now, thank you so much for that.
Thanks, Team INLC, for sharing such a compelling vision of our work here at the Conservancy. It's really an honor to be part of this growing staff of deeply committed regional land conservationists. I hope you're all feeling as inspired and engaged by this work as we are to be doing it. Inspiration, optimism, and hope. They're the engines that drive our regional land conservation, and with our community of support, we are really soaring. The primary value that drives our work is a deep love of nature, and I trust that you all share this value. That's why you're here tonight. That's why you choose to support the Conservancy. And as Mike mentioned, we all know that this work is more important now than ever before, because the threats to the natural world are in so many ways compounding at ever-quickening rates. Across our region, especially in Spokane and Kootenai counties, growth and development are truly outpacing our conservation success. And the existential threats of unchecked climate change and biodiversity loss undermine our natural systems to their very core. So, what do we do about this? I'll admit that, as my staff and family know, I frequently struggle with profound anxiety about the plight of our natural world and our severed relationships with it. This work, the land itself, and our community of support, however, also serve as my antidotes to despair. Getting outside on the land with people that I love, rallying with our community to protect as much of it as possible, and rolling up my sleeves alongside others to care for these places that we've conserved all help to pull me back up and rekindle a flame of hope. I remember a trip with my family out to Palisades Park about 5 years ago, shortly after Craig Vollising had approached INLC on behalf of the Friends of Palisades, asking for our help to protect the 120 acres of land at the north end of the park. You see, for sale signs had suddenly begun popping up on pieces of undeveloped land between Palisades and Riverside. These are beautiful natural spaces dotted with wetlands and ponds, great habitat that serve a wide variety of critters. The community out there had long dreamt that these properties would one day be conserved, but that opportunity seemed to be slipping away. I hadn't spent any time out there since high school, where I'll admit my parents are in the audience tonight, and that's where I wrecked the Suburban. So anyway, I hadn't been back there in many years. So we went as a family out to check it out on a beautiful fall day shortly after that visit with Craig. Now, my kids are no strangers to time together outside. They jokingly refer to it, I think they're joking, they refer to it as forced family fun. This day, however, was especially wonderful. The afternoon sun was streaming in at that unique low angle that illuminates the landscape so vividly. The brisk air had just enough warmth to it that we shed our coats as we explored the basalt mounds and cliffs that make this place such a unique vantage point from which to view the city of Spokane and the beautiful forested hills that ring it. It was one of those days that brought out the best in us. My daughter's beautiful confidence and strength, along with my son's unbridled goofball joy. As we stood together on the bluff overlooking this beautiful landscape, we imagined a future when these habitats were permanently protected, supporting thriving populations of native plants and animals enjoyed and respected by all who call this region home. That visit filled me with excitement about the possibility that the Conservancy could play an essential role in helping to finally make this project a reality. And I'm so happy to report that now, 5 years later, thanks to immense community engagement, generous support, and a truly collaborative approach, we have helped achieve the vision of the Rimrock to Riverside project. Protecting the lands that link Palisades Park to Riverside State Park and completing an 11-mile habitat corridor of protected lands that will be enjoyed by human and non-human communities for generations to come. So this is the work that helps lift me out of despair. Coming together as a community to protect and care for the lands and waters that sustain all life throughout our region. There is so much work to do, but the only option is to tackle it together. Now we're excited to share a video with you that captures some of the stories of the Rimrock to Riverside project. But before we do, I want to say another round of thanks to some key supporters who made this project possible. Thank you to Craig Vollising for nurturing the Rimrock to Riverside vision for so many years. Thank you to Becky Brown and Chris Lambiot, Gail Hunter and her late husband Brian, and Kyle and Rachel Baird for stepping in as conservation buyers to secure the first parcels of land in this project area. Thank you to Pete Stanton and Washington Trust Bank for their substantial philanthropic support of this work. And she's going to hate me for this, but a final special thanks to Julia McHugh, our beloved conservation angel, who generously gifted a piece of her land to the Conservancy to help expand the project. She's already spoken. So now I'm pleased to introduce Megan Kennedy, our friend and a gifted storyteller. We feel lucky to work with Megan's crew at Rogue Heart Media and are grateful for the generosity that they show in giving back to the community through their storytelling. And I'll fumble with the media.
I'll buy you some time. I'm not going to speak for more than just a moment of just honestly just respect and gratitude in immense proportions in this room for everyone who has such a heart for this land, for this region and this work. It has been just a bucket list opportunity, as well as just that source of hope for myself and for my team over the last 2 years to get to take part in protecting the stories of the good work that's been done while you're protecting the land. Kicking off with releasing some salmon last summer was unbelievable. It was a privilege and something I will literally remember forever. It was enough of an impact to make our team sign up for some of that trailblazing work in the spring. So thanks, Todd, for that experience, because my team will never forget that either. Yeah, we were 9 of those 453 volunteers, if you include my family and my husband Rob and our 2 little ones were out there throwing pickaxes with everyone. So, but adding to that list of incredible experiences was our visits to the Rimrock to Riverside area, which I have to admit I wasn't even aware of before this project. So thank you, Carol, for again opening our eyes to another incredible local gem, and to Rose and all others who have supported restoring that and protecting that area. And I'm so excited for you all to get to indulge in some of the very personal and incredible stories that were captured in celebration of this project. So thank you again for allowing us into these moments.
It was from the beginning very obvious that this was a community need, that it would be loved and cherished by the recreation community, by wildlife too.
I've been a lot of places in America, a lot of cities. Hardly any cities have a park like this close to downtown. Got these beautiful rock formations. There's little ponds in the wintertime. It's just really cool.
We've seen elk coming through here, moose. We've seen evidence of bear. And so they're traveling along this corridor and using the park as a way to move between the habitats they need.
If you know the history of the Ice Age floods, it's all right in front of you there, and you've got a commanding view of the whole Spokane, which is wonderful.
I feel like I've stepped out of my day-to-day and I've come into a nurturing space that will renew and rejuvenate me.
I love the kind of topography of it. It's really unique vegetatively and geologically. The wildlife really likes this place too. So it's diverse, it's just rich. And it doesn't really matter how much time you spend out here, you get to see that. This is Rimrock to Riverside, 120 acres north of Palisades City Park. This was identified as a really important place for recreation in particular, to create that 11-mile corridor between the south end of Palisades and the north end of Riverside State Park. You know, after it was brought to our attention by the Friends of Palisades, it was kind of a matter of tying in partners that felt that way too.
Let's see, what else have we got? Some aspen. So, and we got some native plants too, like, you know, there's goldenrods in here. A few weeds. I have been living here in this neighborhood near Palisades Park since we moved to Spokane in 2004, so maybe 18 years. When we first moved to the area, we used to take walks around the park and go jogging there, and just really fell in love with it and decided that this is where we wanted to stay in Spokane. I'm an ecologist, so I have a kind of a special connection to native plants. I think we all value nature, but people don't always understand the importance of different plant communities or microbes or the geologic formations and hydrology and things like that. And so, I would hate to have a world where my kids could not, enjoy some of these landscape features. And it's changing. It's all changing very, very fast.
My first memory of this area was riding horseback with a lady that I was very interested in as a senior in high school. And she was easy to look at and the smartest girl in the class. And she had a horse, and both of us would jump on riding bareback. And so in those days, there weren't a lot of fences and not very many houses, so we were able just to ride through the woods and enjoy the beautiful scenery that's here, the gorgeous view over the city. So we did that quite a number of times, and that was good. She was in the driver's seat, and I got to hang on to her, you see. So she went to Whitman College, and I went to WSU, and the horse went down to a ranch in the Tri-Cities someplace. When we came back to town after we were married and did our professional training, we'd come up here a lot and enjoy the scenery. As we had kids, we'd bring them up as well. We skied. We'd look at the wildflowers and the airplanes that would be flying into the airport, and it was a lot of fun. Jeannie unfortunately developed Alzheimer's disease about a year before I retired, and we would continue to come up here and go for walks, but as her disease progressed, then the walks got shorter and shorter until they just became rides. And then when she was on respite care, then I'd come up here, and it was my place to get a little rest and think, and just be close to nature. So, very, very personal place for me. And then since then, I found a lady online who also lost her spouse, and we have hit it off, and I've introduced her to Rimrock, and she enjoys it as well. We're going to be married in June, so the story continues. Yeah.
The city of Spokane is one of the highest ranking park systems in terms of the number of parks and the park acreage that is accessible to people close to their home. So being able to access nature within a 10-minute walk or a 10-minute drive is unusual. And I think for those who have been in Spokane for a long time, they may not remember or recognize that. And for those people who do come from other places, I think it's quite surprising the quality of our park system and how many places you can explore.
2017, the Fish and Wildlife Service was contacted by 2 landowners out here to come look at their property and see what type of a habitat restoration project we could undertake to better the habitat out in this area. Cue the Land Conservancy coming in and really pushing on us and letting us know that there was a potential for this to be acquired by the county and be permanently protected.
The way that we found out about it is we were out running in this park one day, and we ran into Craig Volasang. He was riding his horse, and we were talking for a while, and brought up this piece of property that was for sale and asked if we'd be willing to buy it as a placeholder. So we did it, and we bought it, and we sat on it for a while. And then another piece came up, the one piece we're standing on right now, and we bought that and held that for a short time, and INLC just always came through, and it was really a minimal effort for us. And just the knowing that this is not going to be developed, that this will be here for the wildlife, for people to enjoy is really cool.
These areas are critical, they really are. Having these areas protected versus having a housing development near a wetland or a parking lot in a wetland. Those wetlands are critical for our entire area, both for waterfowl, for drinking water, for aquifer recharge. We need more of these places protected, and this piece does that.
And if there isn't somebody that's trying to preserve these beautiful natural resources that we have, they're going to go away. They're going to get developed. This would have gotten developed. I am 100% confident that that there'd be houses on this right now. It's just great that this was able to be preserved.
Before we transferred the lands from the Conservancy to the city, we wanted to get our community together, one big hurrah, on the land together, and write this final love letter to the land that we came to really cherish.
Did some shallow excavations on 2 wetlands covering a total of 2 acres, get fencing up, and then plant over 2,000 trees on a weekend in September of 2020. And it was absolutely amazing seeing that many community members come out and get energized about a project that will soon be part of their park system.
It all just happened in a morning. It was just this blitz of caring and lovely energy from our community back into this place that we all love.
The development pressure across all of the West Plains is so prevalent. Housing complexes going up everywhere. This area was protected from that by INLC, by those special landowners. Our public lands in Spokane County have always been a jewel, but the areas around those public lands are being developed at a record pace. By protecting these small pieces and enhancing the habitat, both for wildlife and for human usage, just creates better everything.
I think it's really important for people to get involved. We're not going to have endless opportunities to do this.
If we look 50 years ahead, holding on to some land for wildlife and to keep it the way it was is extremely important. And if people feel that way, they should do something about it.
Not only did our community come together for this beautiful project, but also there are pristine, beautiful places left out there that need us to support them and protect them.
We can celebrate the collaboration and we can celebrate the outcome. And right now we have, on the entire west rim of Spokane, we have conserved public space. It's extraordinary.
There are many benefits to be derived from protecting nature and protecting the land. And if everybody gives a little bit, a lot can be accomplished.
Is an intimidating moment. And so to conquer my nerves, I have a confession to make for all of you. But first I'm going to give an excuse. I had the pleasure of being present for all of the interviews that Megan did to put together this video. And while those who know me know that tears are never far from the surface in my world, and I cry for a number of different reasons, each and every person that participated in this project brought tears to my eyes in hearing their stories of what Rimrock to Riverside means for them. And that's not a new experience for me. I've worked for the Conservancy now for about 2.5 years and have had the opportunity to hear dozens of stories of places that matter to people. And every single one of them warms my heart. So when Dave asked you to close your eyes and imagine a place that was meaningful to you, a place that brought you peace or healing or joy, I kept my eyes open. Because I wanted to see the looks that I've come to recognize when people talk about their love of place. There are little smiles on faces, shoulders relax, I can see people breathing deeply in a way that maybe you weren't when you came in this evening. And that's what reminds me of the importance of the work that you are a part of through Inland Northwest Land Conservancy. For those of you who don't know, my favorite podcast is Hidden Brain, so I always try to put in a plug for that one. And I listened to one recently that talked about the edge effect. The edge effect says that when people of different backgrounds, different perspectives, different cultures come together to work on a project collaboratively, the benefits to creativity, to innovation, and to growth are far beyond what any one of us could do on our own. And to me, Rimrock to Riverside is the epitome of the edge effect, of what a conservation community can do when we come together. Where art meets science, as Mike said earlier. So that feeling that you feel in your heart when you're asked to think about that place that matters to you, that's the beauty or the art of what we do. A community coming together around a collection of shared values. This time of year can get a little bit dark and gray, and so to combat the seasonal sads, I've been listening to the Book of Joy. Has anyone read or listened to audiobook of the Book of Joy? It's a tremendous book written based on a series of interviews between the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu about, not surprisingly, the nature of joy. My favorite concept in this book is a term called Ubuntu. It's in the Afrikaans language, and it translates very loosely to people are people through other people. We don't exist as an island. We are part of a broader community, not just of people, but of all of the living organisms around us. And so tonight, I am honored that my I is contained in our we. In the things that we can do together as a community that I could not do by myself. I know that there are hundreds of ways that you can invest in your community, hundreds of organizations that you could support and invest in to bring about positive results in our community. And I am deeply honored and humbled that we are one of your choices, that you share our values of love of nature, and that this place we live is important. So thank you for choosing us. As I hope you heard from our program staff, we've had tremendous success this year, and we have tremendous opportunity in front of us in the years to come. There are tens of thousands of acres throughout the Inland Northwest that are beautiful forests and waterways and homes for wildlife that need to be protected. And we are poised to do that, thanks to your support. And I hope that we can continue to count on your support in the future to make those dreams a reality. If you've not yet had an opportunity to do your year-end giving, I'd like to say that this evening would be a delightful time to make that happen. Thank you for considering that. Thank you for keeping us in mind as you're planning for appreciated assets, estate plans, any way that you can come alongside us and support the conservation work here in the Inland Northwest. The last thing that I will say is that regardless of whether a checkbook comes out this evening or you talk to your financial planner tomorrow morning, the story that I want you to take away and share is that moment that you thought of at the beginning of the meeting, that place that is special to you, that element of healing and joy that it brought to your life, and in the interest of Ubuntu, of I being a person because of other people, share that story with someone else so that our conservation community can continue to grow. And while we may never be able to meet the scale of the need for conservation in this community, we can come together as a conservation community and create victories together that we could not by ourselves. As Steve said at the end of the video, If everyone does a little bit, a lot can happen. Thank you. Now, I do think that there's some cheesy potatoes left in the back, so make sure that there's not too many of those when I'm left alone with them. Thank you so much for coming this evening.
I want to introduce you to a couple of folks.